challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samuel. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, and it is now 10 a.m. on the East Coast of the United States. Everybody down, whatever you're doing, stop doing it. You're doing car repair and whatever. Put that coffee down, put your pencils down. Everybody has to pay attention to this. So,
and for the sake of humanity, I would appreciate if somebody in the White House would watch this before Trump goes and discuss Russia and Iran later today, as we're told.
Now the problem is that the meeting, I think, is already starting because our very good friend Mark Rutte, the new Secretary General of NATO,
Rudy Fruity, yeah,
exactly. He's in Washington D.C. to meet with President Trump, and I guess they will make their big announcement sometime during their very friendly meeting.
So they're going to be establishing the daddy doctrine.
Exactly. So Rutte will be there. He's in DC for a couple of days. And more good news, Boris Pistorius, Germany's defense minister, he's also in DC.
And so bad news all around.
That's right. So, I mean, we're getting a sense of what's going to happen. So yeah. Over the weekend, President Trump spoke to reporters, and this is what he said. Let's take a listen.
Well, I'm going to have a meeting with the Secretary General who's coming in tomorrow. But we basically are going to send them various pieces of very sophisticated military. They're going to pay us 100% for them. And that's the way we want it. And we've been trying to get that again. I don't think Biden ever asked for it. We're in for 350 billion. Europe is in for 100 billion. That's a lot of money, 100. But they should be in actually for more than us. So as we send equipment, they're going to reimburse us for that equipment, doesn't it?
I can't get over this obsession of his about who's paying for it. It is somehow as if all that matters is the payment.
Yeah, I mean, it's who's paying is held responsible. I mean, it doesn't matter. The results of these weapons are going to have a potentially catastrophic result. It doesn't matter who bought it or sold it, or this is psychotic. I'm sorry, George.
It is psychotic, and it's a very strange thing. I mean, we'll come to that. That he's under the illusion that if he works out this deal whereby it's 100% paid for by NATO, that means somebody or other within NATO, namely Germany, will buy this stuff, then somehow he isn't going back on his word about not getting involved in the war in Ukraine. I mean, that somehow that he's still being consistent.
I'm not the guy that's going to light the match. I'm giving the matchbox to this guy, and he's going to light the match. I had nothing to do with it.
That's right. It's this strange idea that someone, they're going to pay for it. It's just purely a business transaction. And then off he goes again about Biden. I mean, Biden hasn't been there now for months. I mean, who cares?
George, why does he have to talk about Biden? He has become Biden.
He has become Biden. He's absolutely pursuing Biden policy. Anyway, he goes on.
Sound good? That's the way it should have been a long time ago. I haven't agreed on the number yet, but they're going to have some because they do need protection. But the European Union is paying for it. We're not paying anything for it. But we will send it. It'll be business for us. And we will send them Patriots, which they desperately need. Because Putin really surprised a lot of people. He bombs nights and then he bombs everybody in the evening. So there's a little bit of a problem there.
He bombs everyone. Donald Trump, you just bombed Iran. Who are you to talk about people bombing?
Not to mention all the different kind of bombing, like this bombing of Somalia. This is kind of an ongoing thing. You're always bombing Somalia. Yeah, you're right. It's bombing. Somehow this is a problem. We don't even have to get into his good friend Bibi and what Bibi has been doing, which he seems to be completely indifferent.
Yes.
I mean,
George, this time last week, what's the ceasefire deal in Gaza? Remember that? That was top line,
yep,
and you and I said no. It's
yep,
going to be about Iran. It's going to be about Russia. It's going to
yep.
be about much broader thing. That just came and went without a whimper. Nobody noticed. Oh,
That's right. It's a remarkable thing because we were all talking about BB is coming to town. What are they going to talk about? They're going to talk about this the Gaza ceasefire, and then what Gaza ceasefire? Where's it's as brutal and as horrific as ever. And every day you read a story about children getting killed. There's another one, children getting killed trying to get some water. Oh, sorry, we were targeting an Islamic Jihad leader. Unfortunately, we killed some children. We're looking into it. Don't worry,
yeah.
we're looking
And
into
now
it.
you have frontline IDF soldiers buying these Chinese drones and rejigging them themselves to drop hand grenades.
Yes,
Okay, I mean, apparently it's not even state policy. Some groups have just taken it upon their own. I mean, this is extraordinary. These are headlines all around the world, except for in Europe and except for in North America.
that's right. And it's only talking about illusion. It's only Trump who seemed to think that a recommendation for a Nobel Peace Prize from Bibi Netanyahu would carry weight with the Nobel Committee. Oh, well, I've got Bibi on my side. Anyway, he talks a little more here. Okay, so he's finished there. It's only a few words, but he's clearly made clear he intends to send these Patriot missiles, and
Yeah,
then
it's unclear if he's talking about the entire kit or
right,
individual
it's not clear.
missiles.
It isn't clear, though. I think given the format, given that what we're talking about is that they're going to sell it to Germany. I think they're going to sell the entire thing. So it's not going to be 10. I think they're going to sell two or three of the entire Patriot systems to Germany, and then Germany will then transfer them to Ukraine. But anyway, Lindsey Graham.
Oh yeah, he had a good
And
weekend.
yes, he was on Deface the Nation with Blumenthal, his good friend. And let's take a look at what happened there.
Good morning to you both, Senators.
Good morning.
Senator Graham, I want to start with you. Russia's escalating. They're not ending this war in Ukraine. NATO's Secretary General is going to be here in Washington this week and will be meeting with President Trump, who is, according to our reporting, considering fresh funding for Ukraine. That would be the first time since he's taken office. What do you know about what is coming?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of the president, but I'm having dinner along with Senator Blumenthal and other senators with Secretary General Mark Rutte tomorrow night. A turning point regarding Russia invasion of Ukraine is coming. For months, President Trump has tried to entice Putin to the peace table. He's put tariffs against countries that allow fentanyl to come in our country, other bad behavior. He's left the door open regarding Russia. That door is about to close. Dick and I have got 85 co-sponsors of the United States Senate for congressional sanctions with a sledgehammer available to President Trump to go after Putin's economy and all those countries.
So it's going after Putin's economy when he's going after India and China's economy.
He's going after the global economy.
The global economy.
Because you start messing with those major trading centers, you're talking about how the whole system works. Okay, this is and I don't want to get ahead here, but this is Also, this week, Trump has a major statement coming out on Iran. These are all related things. Now, I'm going to take this segue right now to repeat what I've said over the last few months. I'm sure George is going to agree with me. This day wasn't supposed to happen, or these days were not supposed to happen under Trump, because the war is over. Last legism, wrapping it up, a reestablishment of U.S.-Russia relations. They'll get their consulates back. And none of this has happened, everyone. And George and I are alone, as naysayers say. This is far from over, okay? Right. It's going to escalate. Before it's over, it's going to escalate. And we potentially, I don't want to get ahead of the president like everybody says. I don't know what Trump's going to say. But, right. There's enough, what do they call them? Easter eggs appearing in front of us that, are leading us to this direction. Lindsey Graham wouldn't be saying this. He wouldn't be taking a victory lap like this unless he had a pretty good idea. Secretary General Rudy Fruity is going to be there. That means something, okay? They're going to all line up behind him. Have a little daddy scenario there. And this is, Trump loves this. This is exactly how he wants to be choreographed. What will it entail? Potentially, let's look at some of the things here. Official a seizure of Russian assets. We're looking at about $300 billion. Most of it is in Europe. The Europeans have been in a quandary. Right. There's not a unified message up and maybe until the speech later today, because that will...
I wondered about that because some of the media reports do talk about this seizure, and maybe Trump would go for it. But you wonder, would Secretary Bessent, Treasury Secretary, would he go for it? Does what are all his friends, his Wall Street friends, and do they think that's a great idea to go around seizing assets? I don't know.
With the background, absolutely. With the background of all of this tariffs going around the world, I mean, this is adding to an enormous amount of frustration and agitation. I mean, not only does the United States unilaterally feel it has the right to determine who can trade with whom and what rates, now they're going to seize a sovereign country's assets. This is adding more very dangerous layers here. Okay, George and I have been. I think it's a bit strong to say, BRICS skeptics. It's at least for me, it's a little too strong. But it makes people less and less skeptical.
Right. But I think the reason why we say BRICS skeptics, or at least I am, is that all the talk about alternative currency and alternative economic financial system is just it's nowhere near happening. And to be honest, BRICS hasn't pretended that they're going to issue a new currency, let alone they're going to start working on a reserve currency. They haven't said it, and it just cannot happen. Because for all sorts of reasons it cannot happen. But China is not in a position to make the yuan as a reserve currency.
We've never seen in the history of global exchanges where a currency just appears powerful on one day. No, I mean the British pound sterling in the United States coexisted for a very long time, and then when the British actually lost the Second World War, everyone, I hate to break it to you, but they lost the empire. It wrecked their economy, and the pound sterling wasn't what it was, and so the dollar succeeded it. I don't want to take too much time on this. There's a clearinghouse system going on that is working, it is growing in intensity, but I'm going to agree with George. Having this currency come out of nowhere and be dominant, it can't happen.
That's right. So anyway,
saying is that Trump, Lindsey Graham is saying taking a sledgehammer to the Russian economy, taking a sledgehammer to the global economy.
It is because as we discussed yesterday. If you start hitting anyone with these 500% tariffs on all goods, the way it works is that if you're trading in oil or gas with Russia, you're going to be hit with 500% tariffs. I wonder does this apply to his good friend Viktor Orban in Hungary? Hungary, gets its oil and gas from Russia, so I'm not sure Hungary is going to be very happy with it. But if if you hope to have good relations with India, if you want to use India against China, you want to create play a balance of power game in
The Quad, yeah.
the Quad. Exactly. I'm not sure India is going to be exactly enthused by it. But anyway, the story that Axios launched the story, what they think is is going to be there in this uh, package that's announced by Trump. He says aggressive weapons plan, and then he says President Trump will announce a new plan to arm Ukraine. Sending offensive weapons would be a major shift for Trump, who had until recently been at pains to say he would provide only defensive weapons to avoid escalating conflict. So even in those comments to the reporters, he still talked about defensive. He still talked about
There's no difference, everyone.
no,
Okay,
of course not.
if you're killed by an offensive or defensive weapon, you're still dead. It doesn't make
Yes,
any
of course,
difference at all.
of
And
course,
anyway, almost every single weapon ever made has dual purposes.
of course it is. Yeah. And then he goes on. The new initiative, which will be rolled out in a meeting between Trump and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, will involve European countries paying for US-made weapons that will be sent to Ukraine. Trump told reporters that he would send Ukraine through European countries, would include various pieces of very sophisticated military equipment, including the Patriot air defense batteries. And then the Europeans are going to pay.
Before you go on, is Trump going to still make the claim that he is a um, uh, a, a broker in this
That's
whole?
that's a very good question, because and this really raises the interesting question, which is, well, what's the strategy here? Because once you send these weapons, then there's kind of no going back. I mean, wouldn't I mean, unless you're going to commit yourself to this brainless NATO doctrine, whereby the more we send to Ukraine, the more likely it is Putin's going to come to the negotiating table. I mean, is that now Trump's also his credo? Yeah, well, that'll get Putin to the go. That's the way to get peace, by sending more weapons. I mean, is that what Trump also thinks? Because
What's
that's what NATO has been repeating.
what's the strategy? There's no answer.
Yeah,
It's like listening to the ocean and a seashell. There's nothing there. There's nothing there.
there's nothing
He
there.
they got him. Joe Biden, Blinken, Sullivan have won. Victoria Nuland has won.
The one. This is what now. The thing that is also a little concerning, and because now you've talked about this, the seizure of the assets, but there are also things like opening up new fronts against Russia. He's not going. I don't think he's going to announce it. I think it's just something that's going to seep in
Well, I
through
mean, there's going to be
channels.
the rumor mill is that the administration is going to demand that Iran open its doors to the IAEA again, which of course is not going to happen. Okay, and so I just see enormous numbers of linkages. Well, we can throw in the word Azerbaijan, which is part of this linkage as well. Where that will be, as George just said, opening up a new front that has already been open. Everyone, it's been open for a while. Okay,
Right.
but what I think is that what these people around Trump, what they would conceive as a strategy, you have to look. There've been in times that over the last few months, well, maybe Russia can help Trump with Iran. Okay, well, that's not going to happen. Okay, and so. And now I think they
Well,
look
that's
at
an interesting question, because there are stories that are being floated, and we can talk about that, according to which Russia supports the zero enrichment policy. Now, Russia has sort of denied it, but hasn't entirely denied the story. We can take a look at that and see exactly the way it's been framed. Let's see. Yeah, this is not always the easiest thing in the world to do. Um, it's it's this. yeah, this is not the easiest thing with this. It's not the most.
Hang on there.
Right. Let
Well,
me.
what you
Yeah.
find it?
All right. Let me.
That this is I think that in a way it's going to be presented as discrete. Russia,
Yes. Yes.
today, later in the week, Iran.
Right.
What I'm saying,
Right.
this is part of Trump's global
Yes.
strategy, which I think is, if it's
Yep.
a strategy at all, it's a strategy for disaster.
Well,
But
here's this the story. It appeared in Axios about a couple of days ago, and it says here, scoop. Putin urges Iran to take zero enrichment nuclear deal with US, sources say. And then says Russian President Vladimir Putin has told both President Trump and Iranian officials that he supported the idea of a nuclear deal in which Iran is unable to enrich uranium. Sources familiar with the discussions tell Axios. Russia has been Iran's mate, blah, blah. And then it goes on. Behind the scenes, Moscow has encouraged the Iranians to agree to zero enrichment, according to 3 European officials and 1 Israeli official with knowledge of the issue. And then 2 sources said that the Russians also briefed the Israeli government about Putin's position regarding Iran's uranium enrichment. We know that this is what Putin told the Iranians, a senior Israeli official said. And then Putin also expressed that position in calls last week with Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron. Though not one of the readouts suggested that.
yeah, but
Yeah.
okay, keep going.
All right. And then it says Putin and other Russian officials have conveyed their support for zero enrichment deal to the Iranians several times of the last few weeks. Also say Putin would support zero enrichment. He encouraged the Iranians to work towards that in order to make negotiations with the Americans more favorable. The Iranians said they won't consider it, 1 European officials with direct knowledge of the issues said. And then says Putin's blah, 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 notable. The Russians have made clear in public and private that if a deal is reached, they are willing to remove Iran's highly enriched uranium. Russia has said it would then supply Iran with 3.67% uranium for nuclear power and small quantities of 20% enriched uranium for the Tehran research reactor and the production of nuclear isotopes. So that's the story.
Yeah,
now,
we've been here before, George.
Well, no, it's a little different because that was what the previous one, the previous one that they would still allow for enrichment on Iranian territory. But what this deal, it sounds like Russia would provide the enricher, but they wouldn't. The Iranians would not have the ability to enrich uranium, so that the whatever enriched uranium they get directly from the Russians.
Yeah,
Now,
I know that you always parse these things so we don't have like endless slides. But would such a deal include Russia? Would Russia be prohibited, for example, supplying sophisticated missile defense systems and whatnot? I mean,
I don't know. This
very
story didn't
important
mention
package
that.
deal. No, I'm not sure if we're just being faked out again here. I mean,
No,
it's not.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
About
But
Iran's nuclear program. This is about regime change.
yes, but the question is there are the Russians trying to work out, trying to facilitate the deal? Now, the Russians issued a statement. They obviously took this seriously enough to issue a statement. And if look at the wording, how the Russians speak. They say Western media continue to clearly demonstrate their true nature, a tool in the hands of political elites, intelligence communities, and so-called deep state, which does not shy away from any methods, including direct provocations and the generation of fakes. Recently, the Axios publication has often acted as a drain tank, disseminating targeted disinformation. It is based in Arlington, across the Potomac River, from Washington, not far from the Pentagon, the CIA headquarters, and countless think tanks. One can only guess who was the customer this time, but one of the publication's latest publications, titled Sensation Putin Calls on Iran, blah, blah, is apparently another dirty politicized campaign that is being launched with the aim of escalating tensions around the nuclear program. And then he goes on, our country's position on this issue, including in the context of Israeli and American strikes on Iranian territory, is well known. They have consistently and repeatedly emphasized the need to resolve the crisis surrounding the Iranian nuclear program exclusively through political and diplomatic means, and expressed their readiness to assist in finding mutually acceptable solutions. There's no sensation to be found in these statements, only a consistent position of a responsible participant in the international community aimed at resolving the crisis. Obviously, this will not make for a bright headline, but this is what distinguishes journalism from work to order and dishonest attempts to create excitement out of thin air. We call on all responsible global media to rely on official sources of information, delve deeply into the subject, and not spread fakes. Now, the thing about that is it's not exactly a denial of the claims made in Axios. I mean, there's a lot of accusations and so on, and then said, well, Russian position is we want a peaceful resolution. Okay, you want a peaceful resolution, but Iran is saying something different. Iran is saying, well, we have the right under the Non-Proliferation Treaty to enrich uranium to whatever level we think appropriate. We don't have a right to develop nuclear weapons, but we do have a right to. But Russia's not endorsing that position. They just say we want a peaceful resolution of this issue.
And also, this is maybe alien to most Westerners these days, but this is what is called negotiating. This is throwing things out there. Can this work? Would this work? What if we took a position? And it's not as they take maybe a snapshot and say, "Oh, this is the position." No, I look at it as being showing enormous amount of flexibility. But see, the U.S. doesn't want that. They don't want Russia to be flexible. Okay, they want Russia to fall in line. Okay, or face the consequences. So,
but at the same time, look, I don't know whether the story is true, not true. I mean,
it seems odd, at least to me. I'm sorry.
It is odd. Let's first of all what the Iranian official news agency said. Just to take a look at that, they issued a statement. An informed source speaking to a reporter from Tasniv News, that's the official news agency, regarding a claim by a Zionist media outlet about Putin's message to Iran regarding accepting zero enrichment, said Tehran has not received such a message from Putin in any way. He said Mr. Putin's last meeting with Iranian officials was with Mr. Araghchi, and such an issue was not raised in that meeting. After that, no messages about zero enrichment were exchanged through communications channels in Russia and Tehran. So anyway, so they kind of deny that there was any mention by the Russians. Now, it could well be, just a news story floated out there to create enmity between Russia and Iran. So that absolutely could be a possibility. But if there is any truth in it, then it does seem very strange for Trump to be belligerent towards Russia at this time. If you're looking to Russia to help you out on working out a deal with Iran, then it would seem strange to want to antagonize Russia in this way at this very moment.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I mean, this is my sense of it all. When Trump ordered the bombing of Iran's nuclear assets, days after the start of Israel's war against Iran. I mean, Iran was supposed to collapse. It was supposed to have regime change. There was supposed to be a pliant government. Or the country would break up and through ethnic and religious strife. The playbook. Right. But that is also believed about Russia. All Trump has to do, Lindsey Graham and Dick Blumenthal, all you have just a little bit more pressure, just a few more missiles, and the whole place is going to collapse. It seems to me that's the universal mindset of the people around Donald Trump. Just a little bit more. Iran, they're backing away from obliterated right now. Because why would they want to force the IAEA back into Iran if the nuclear program has been obliterated? They don't right. answer the question. Okay, but I think that They're in a very adventurous mood right now, and it's to solve all problems in all places at the same time. That this seems to be because Trump was mesmerized by Israeli tactics, and the attack on those 12 days. The Israelis put a lot of time and effort into it. There was huge tactical victories and a strategic blunder. Okay, the Israelis are good at that, beepers and pagers. Okay, but as a strategy, Trump believed that it was a strategy. No, it was just a very elaborate tactic. Okay, I think Trump has been being deceived by believing that all you have to do is push a little bit harder, and Putin will come begging at the table. That's illusory.
Well, I don't know that he really believes that. I think it's something that they keep repeating to themselves. I mean, they've been repeating the same thing for 3.5 years without any evidence of any of that. I mean, it's like they're committed to this because they're committed to it. I mean, it's like when you commit to something and it isn't working, but you're going to keep doing it because otherwise you have to admit that it isn't working, and then you have to try something new. So instead of trying anything new, let's just keep doing what we were doing before. But I think
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, but I don't think they actually think that this will succeed. I can't believe they really think that it will succeed.
No, it's always
think that it will succeed. It's just something. Well, we did it. What else are we going to do? Because what else we're going to do means that we have to think about something different and change tactics.
Well, that's what's really kind of tragic and scary about it, George. Is
right? No, that's it. That's right. We just
doing what we're doing that's not working. That's a catastrophe.
Right. No, that's right. Now, the thing about the regime change in Iran, because of course, Israel would like to do that, but there's a real problem with that, which is okay, you can bomb them again, but the bombing that Trump did was actually very limited. He got that off. He said it's very limited. We're going to hit these targets and then we finish. But how do you achieve regime change with bombing? That's not a limited operation. That's
you got to keep trying.
No outcome. No,
you got to keep trying. You got to keep trying.
Yes.
I'm sorry, George, but that seems to be the default position, because I keep saying Trump made a cardinal error by doing. He set a precedent. So, they'll say, "Well, you did it once, you can do it again, can't you?"
Yes, that's right. I'm sure that's the correct. I just don't think it's going to happen in the immediate future. I think that's.
Well, Israel has to restock itself.
It's got. You have to wait a little bit. And particularly, and we can come to that because I want to talk about this as well. And particularly, as Trump is now in a lot of trouble with his base, and it's a sudden accumulation of issues. One
domestic and foreign.
Exactly. Two of which are the attack on Iran, which Trump kind of got away with simply because he limited it and said, okay, it's done, over, we're not doing it again. But the Ukraine, they're not happy with that. Again, we'll talk about that. And then, of course, there's the Epstein thing, not happy about that. But even more seriously, even more problematically for Trump, he's going very soft on immigration. Immigration, that's the cardinal issue. That's MAGA. That was the issue that animated MAGA, and he's unhappy.
Well, I mean, George, what we have now, I don't know if it's unique, but it's something we haven't seen recently, at least, is that, American presidents, when they get themselves in trouble at home, you look for foreign adventures. But see, Trump's movement is predicated on non-intervention. So turning to that
he doesn't have that option.
People are not going to rally around Donald Trump for a war against Iran because he was elected, at least for millions and millions of people, that he wouldn't do that.
Exactly.
So he's in a dilemma right now because you could turn your. I mean, what did Richard Nixon do? Remember in the waning months of his presidency, he traveled a lot. Okay,
right. He traveled, but that was a difference when he traveled a lot because they were to secure peace. So when but I think that's the point. I mean, he went to the Middle East in the kind of early summer of 1974 to celebrate the end of the Yom Kippur War and the signing of all of those disengagement agreements. Those are the ones that negotiated by Kissinger. That he did the disengagement agreement with Syria, disengagement agreement with Egypt. So there was a reason for him to make these
No,
travels.
it was a victory lap. George and I
Yeah,
are huge
yeah,
fans of
right,
Richard
right,
Nixon's foreign policy. But what I'm saying is that Watergate had embroiled his presidency. Every day, I
right.
remember, living through it. Okay, and he wanted to. He was after his legacy. Okay, he created some. His foreign policy was very effective because it was strategically grounded. Okay, but what Donald Trump is that he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, because
Right.
his presidency is predicated on non-intervention
Yeah.
and anti-immigration, and he's left
But
wanting.
he's letting them down. But the point is about the non-intervention is that he had that option. He had the option of getting a deal done on Iran, and he could absolutely have sold that deal on Iran as being much, much tougher than Obama's deal. This is a really good deal. This is really tough. Yeah,
What you and I advocated.
exactly. Yeah, Mark Levin would attack him and whatever, but who cares about Mark Levin? And similarly with Ukraine, yes, he would attack. And the thing, oh, the Europeans will be unhappy. This is a guy who's hitting Europe today with tariffs. He's clobbering them with tariffs. So what do you care what Ursula von der Leyen says? What do you care what Macron says? You think they're happy that you're hitting them with these 30% tariffs? So what does he care about? That they're unhappy with the policy on Ukraine. So it still remains a mystery why he has gone down a path which I think will destroy his presidency. I mean, I
Oh
think
yeah,
what
yeah,
he's doing now
yes.
with Iran, with Israel and Gaza, and with Ukraine it's on the route to destroying his presidency.
I've said with George many times that we'd like to stay away from the prediction business, but my gut tells me here right now it is 5:38 p.m. Moscow time. I think he's going to have another really tumultuous week.
I think
Okay,
so.
and
I
it
think so.
might be a game changer in a way.
That's
And
right.
and this whole Epstein thing, which I don't want to go into here,
Well, yeah,
that's
yeah,
completely unraveling in front of him right now.
right.
I don't know how many people saw Tucker Carlson's speech over the weekend, but that
Good
was a
speech. Good speech.
amazing indictment.
But exactly. But what was interesting about the speech is he talked about Epstein, and then he brought up Israel. He said, "Well, you're working for Israel," and there was huge applause in the audience. Not silence, applause when he brought up Israel. That's a sea change. That's a sea change now among Republicans, among MAGA supporters. That they have had it with Israel. I mean,
Well, I mean, the speech, okay, what I would consider it a very important data point is that there is a huge differentiation. George and I've talked about this endlessly. You must differentiate between the Republican Party and MAGA because they're not the same thing.
No,
They're not the same thing.
right, no, they're absolutely not. No, the Republican Party establishment, the one that's in Congress, the donors, and so on. Yes, that's one thing, but that's not the people who vote, and that's the crucial thing. It's the voters, and all it would take for these people is to say we're not going to vote. It's basic. What do we want to vote for? I mean, it's already going to be a problem in the midterms because we know that when Trump isn't on the ballot, you know, a lot of the people, low propensity voters don't show up.
He doesn't have coattails, George.
He doesn't. He doesn't have. Well, he does when he's on the ballot. When he's not on the ballot, I think then the Republicans are in a lot of trouble. But if there are all the people who have now lost motivation as well, then you're thinking in terms of a blowout in the House, and he could lose control of the Senate. So it could be in the midterms, he's going to lose control of both houses.
And then
then exactly. Now, over the weekend, Trump sent out this this truth, which has caused great deal of distress among his supporters, because this is on his
Oh,
platform.
this is the great ratioed one
That exactly, it was ratioed, and that's unheard of to
on
be
his own
ratioed,
platform.
because yeah, it's is it on his own platform, and they're clearly unhappy. So he says, "What's going on with my boys, and in some cases gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening." A lot of things he doesn't like. He doesn't like Putin, and he doesn't like the EU negotiators. He doesn't like it. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it. All over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. And then for years, it's Epstein over and over again.
Yeah, yeah, and that helped him vault him back into the White House.
That's right. But this is where he makes this very strange segue. He says, "Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who con the world with the Russia, Russia, Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, and more?" Now, this is where it becomes very puzzling, because that's the first time anyone has said that the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing has been cooked up by Comey, Brennan, Hillary Clinton, and Obama, because they ran, I mean, the Justice Department all those years. I mean, if they wanted to do something with Epstein, they could have done it. I mean, so it's hard to understand. The Epstein issue has been, it's a Republicans, it's well, not
It's a
Republicans,
Republican issue.
right? They're the ones who made this into an issue, and they're the ones who said that somehow there's some very dark, sinister forces that have this blackmail, extortion,
Well, George, I mean,
prostitution, ring. We talked about it. They made this up. They're
yeah.
the ones who made it up. No, it wasn't Obama. I don't remember Obama or Hillary Clinton or anyone talking about this.
Well, is he going to peddle this is like inverse. I mean, he's going to start peddling a Russia, Russia, Russia like conspiracy now. Okay, you can't reverse. You can't rewind and go and change the past. This is what they ran on month after month after month after month. Okay,
Right.
and it's all on video. I mean, you've seen it countless times over the last 10 days. So have I. Okay, you can't undo that. You just can't say that this is, this guy never dies. Yeah, you guys never let him die.
That's right. But as we discussed, the problem was always that he was essentially made up. I mean, the whole thing was fictional. I mean, for instance, this woman, Julie Brown, who wrote those articles in the Miami Herald, and she wrote a book based on that. She said there is no Epstein list. She knows this, so she knows
Okay,
there is no Epstein list.
Okay, there is a huge story here, but it's not what most people think. This is in my opinion. Where is the transparency? See, this is the story. Transparency. No, you said there's a lot of documents. Okay, let's just see that for you there are no docs to be connected. That's fine. But you peddled this for years and years and years. So what, you have all of this evidence. What is the evidence that made you to come to that conclusion? See, for me, it's a transparency issue, and I think inherently for MAGA people, it's also about transparency. You have to. Your words and actions have to be parallel on this. Okay, what is the Epstein story really about? Well, that's a point of view, okay, because of lack of transparency and innuendo and rumor.
But it was innuendo. But if you look at
things that they have no idea if it's true or not.
Well, but what do we know? We know something about the case, the original case, and there were the documents that were made available in that original case. There was also this woman, this Virginia Giuffre, who was basically a serial liar. I mean, she was just making stuff up. And most of what we know about this, or what we think we know about the whole Jeffrey Epstein, come from her. She was the one who said, "Oh, I was being passed around among all these rich and powerful people." But none of it has ever been brought to trial. And in
Okay.
fact, the one case, no, let me finish. I mean, in the one case where this came up, she had to back away, which was the case of Alan Dershowitz. She made specific allegations against Alan Dershowitz, which did him a lot of damage. Dershowitz sued her, and she basically had to, say, "Yeah, I made all this up about Alan Dershowitz." So that's the one case where
We're arguing at cross purposes here. Okay, my point is the MAGA movement feel that they've been betrayed because there's a lack of transparency. Reveal everything. See where the chips fall. Okay, that's how I look at it. Okay, there's a sense of betrayal, and that needs to be addressed. And if it's not addressed, his administration is going to have a pretty rocky time. As we speak right now, is Dan Bongino going to work? Will Pan Bondi be Attorney General by the end of this week?
Yeah. She's going to survive. Yeah.
What I'm saying is that
Yeah.
this is a trap that they walked into, and you better figure it out pretty quick.
All right. No, that's right. But I mean, they absolutely made this stuff up. This was something that was done. But I don't know exactly what more there is to disclose. We know all the stuff. There was a lot of material that came
It's
out.
on my desk right now.
Right,
Show me
but she
what was
said
on
that.
your desk.
But
That's
exactly.
all
But
I'm saying.
what was on her desk when she handed out those files? That were all stuff that had already appeared in the
Okay,
media.
then say that.
Julie Brown's story.
Then say that. Admit it. Admit it.
Okay.
Admit it.
No, that's right. I mean, you have to say that. But I think the reason for this, and this is a number of figures within MAGA have been using this as a grift. They were making money, including Bongino, including Kash Patel, including, incidentally, Steve Bannon. Bannon recorded, I don't know, hours and hours of conversations with Jeffrey Epstein. And at that turning point event, somebody asked him, "Hey, why didn't you reveal these hours and hours of conversations?" "Well, I will, next year, when my documentary comes out." Don't give us next year. You're the one who's banging on about Jeffrey Epstein, and he who owns these tapes, he doesn't want to disclose them.
I am not going. There was a reason, George, you and I. Now we talk about it more than ever before, and that really frustrates me because I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. Okay, what I'm just saying is that claims were made, things are on my desk. Clear the air. Okay, if you're going to be proven to be a grifter, well, that's your problem. Okay, but show what evidence is out there. Let the chips fall where they may, and there's going to be a lot of egg on a lot of faces here. And what I say here, transparency. And if there is, the best way to unravel, if there is this vast conspiracy, is follow the money. I'm not going after. We have to get the pedophiles in prison. No, if you get transparency and you follow the money, then there's be grounds for litigation. Okay,
right.
I'm not going down
okay, all right.
the rabbit hole that everybody else does. Okay?
But the truth is, there's nothing. There's nothing here.
George, we're going in. Just reveal it. Just reveal. That's all.
Look, Prince Andrew. Let's look at Prince Andrew, for instance. Virginia Giuffre made these allegations against Prince Andrew. He got smeared for it, and he coughed up some money. Why? Because he didn't want litigation. I mean, and that's what happened. But essentially, the grift was on the part of people like Virginia Giuffre, who became a very wealthy woman. She made an awful lot of money, and therefore there was always a financial incentive in making this stuff up. But there's no evidence at any time, and Prince Andrew did not in any way admit any culpability, that any of them, all of the other people, Yehud Barak or anyone else, that they took part in this whole, child prostitution racket. And that's my point. A lot of unscrupulous people peddle this, including this woman, a very troubled young woman who's now committed suicide, were putting out all these stories. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people. I mean, Alan Dershowitz. We're no fans of Alan Dershowitz, but I think in this case he was very unfairly smeared. Every time he goes on Piers Morgan, somebody or other who just absolutely hates him immediately brings up, "Oh, you're a child molester."
George, I remember I had Alan Dershowitz on my program a couple of times, and when he came on once, it was the middle of all of this, all these accusations made against him, and I can remember to a person on my team, they said, "This guy looks really, really distraught." He was not really well kept, wasn't really well spoken. I mean, it took a huge toll on him. Okay, it was quite visible. Again, George, I'm not going to argue with you. We're not. This is not a real argument. What I'm saying is, people made claims, and now they have to become clean.
Right. That becomes
That's all I'm saying.
right.
That's all I'm saying.
Right. But I think
I don't want to delve into
Okay. All right. All right.
all of these. He said, she said. No, people
Right.
attained political power
Right.
on a message that delivered them that power. Now they have to be held accountable. That's all I'm saying about it.
All right.
Everybody. There's a
All
thunderstorm.
right. All right.
There's a thunderstorm here in Moscow. So if you hear loud noises, it's not George beating up on me. Go ahead.
No, I agree. To be honest, I think Trump can ride out the Epstein thing. He's less likely to ride out the issue of immigration and the issues of his foreign policy there, because I think those are the ones that he really, that's why people
Good.
voted for him. So he can say, bluster on about Epstein. So if we look at this,
Hang on. I want to react to that. I'm going to move on.
okay,
I think that the accumulative effect of what all you just said is his presidency is in the balance right now.
yeah, yeah. So this is, and then it says they created the Epstein files just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me. I still don't understand that argument. I've never heard that anyone created the Jeffrey Epstein file to go after Trump. It's just, I mean, this was that the Steele dossier. Yeah, that was the Democrats, Hillary Clinton and Obama used the Steele dossier to attempt to destroy Trump. But I've never heard that anyone was trying to use the
Well, I
Epstein
mean,
files to
George,
destroy him.
if this was what Trump claims, then and if as so many people and Trump's enemies claim that he was in that file, why didn't they release the file if Trump was in
Exactly. That's right. That's a common sense view. Exactly. If that's what it is, then why didn't they? They ran the Justice Department all those years. And it says that they used on me, and now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? If there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? Well, he's asking a rhetorical question, and so what's the answer to that? So, I mean, is that is his attempt to that there's nothing in there, or I mean, why didn't they? I mean, he's saying on the one hand, he's saying the Epstein files are being used against him, and then he says, well, if there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? So they're basically saying that there's nothing in there. In those.
Yeah, but George, isn't he creating the Streisand effect here?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
That's the only thing I got from this wandering screed.
It is.
Okay,
It
is
is.
putting a lot more focus on it. I mean, you said it, and a reporter asked Pam Bondi a question, and then Trump says, "You want me to answer that?" Why are you doing
Right.
this? Okay,
Right.
now all the focus is on that comment. Okay,
Right.
then he writes this. All the focus. It's a
Right.
Streisand effect. Why are people talking about it? Why are you writing about it?
That's right. Exactly. Why are you so worked up about it? And then he said they haven't been given up on the John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King files. No matter how much success we've had securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, energy dominance, a safer world where Iran will not have nuclear weapons. It's never enough for some people. We're about to achieve more in 6 months than any other administration has achieved in over 100 years. And we have so much more to do. We are saving our country and making America great again, which will continue to be our complete priority. The left is imploding. Kash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election of 2020, arresting thugs and criminals instead of spending month after month looking at nothing but the same old radical left-inspired
Yeah,
documents
well,
from Jeffrey.
Cash Patel and Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino, that was their bread ticket, Mr.
That
President.
was that really, and there's some more real grifters. I mean, the guys like this Benny Johnson and others. I mean, they've become very wealthy men by peddling a variety of conspiracies. But what's interesting, I think, to be honest, that Trump would prefer to get into an argument about Epstein rather than to get into an argument on immigration, where I think he's onto hiding to nothing. And because if we look at the next story from I think this is from the Washington Post. Here is oh yeah, let Pam Bondi do her job, blah blah. She's great. 2020 election was stolen and so on. And then here's the Washington Post. Immigration Epstein, Ukraine. Trump's moves royal MAGA base. And then
Well,
Trump's
who would have thought that we would agree with the Washington Post?
exactly. Trump's apparent decision to avoid deportations of migrants working on farms, hotels, and potentially in other industries tops the list of the issues that have caused prominent MAGA influencers to sound the alarm. And then Trump acknowledged the serious radical right people in his political base may not be quite as happy with the initiative. He added that he thought that they would ultimately understand. And then Trump's comments led to intense public pushback from MAGA figures, including Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk, who warned about plans to offer amnesty to some migrant workers. And then it goes on. Tuesday morning, as Trump was shown social posts from MAGA influencers decrying his recent comments, he took issue with the amnesty claim. What are they talking about? I never talked about amnesty. But the point is, this is so thoroughly disingenuous. Nobody has ever said amnesty. You're saying you're going to legalize people who are illegal. Eventually, down the road, they're going to be talking about amnesty. So this is a total red herring by saying, "Oh, I never talked about amnesty." No, and no one is saying you talked about amnesty. But you're essentially allowing people who are illegal to stay in the country. Something you specifically. Oh, this is something unambiguous. This isn't anything we can argue about. What did you mean about Jeffrey Epstein? You said specifically that you're going to carry out deportations, and particularly those who came into the country during the Biden years. That was his absolute pledge. He's got everyone who came into the country. He claims it was 20 million or whatever the number was. He claims 20 million. They're going to be deported. He never said that there was going to be a carve out for farms, hotels, restaurants, because if you're going to that carve out, then what about carve outs in the construction industry?
Or what about dreamers?
Yeah, exactly. Dreamers and people working in warehouses or Amazon or, all the people, they're all, Home Depot, they're all going to say, yeah, I want to carve out. So that I think is a very serious issue for him, because that's a real issue. And if he goes back on that, then he's lost his base. And to think, and his idea, they will support me in all circumstances, that is false. That is absolutely.
I don't know, Joe. How much did you watch of the Turning Point thing?
I saw some of this. I saw some of the speakers. Yeah,
it was pretty. You could tell the agitation, feel the agitation in the audience, big time.
Exactly.
And these are card-carrying, committed people. Okay.
Right. Exactly. And so this was the issue, the immigration, and Iran. They were always very unhappy about Iran, particularly that we're waging wars on behalf of Israel. But if you're going to do Ukraine, and that was always the the central plank of MAGA foreign policy. We're not going to get involved in Ukraine. We're not going to
Yeah.
risk World War
Well,
III.
remember the question? Uh, um, what was it? Do you want Ukraine to win?
Just want
I,
Ukraine to win. Yeah,
I want the killing to stop.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
you're just going to add fuel to the fire now. A
That's right.
complete betrayal. And for those that watch this podcast, we have asked over and over again, where was the diplomacy? Where was the negotiations? There was none. There was none. Repairing U.S.-Russia relations. How many of those compounds were returned to the Russians? It was stolen from them under international
Right,
law.
right.
Nothing has been done. Nothing's been
Right.
done. So
Right. In which case,
it doesn't even look like they made an effort to me. Okay.
exactly. In which case, you kind of have to ask, what have they been doing? I mean, they've been on the job for 6 months. What have they done during the 6 months? I mean, they've had these meet. I mean, Marco Rubio keeps saying, "Oh, we've made all this great effort. We know we're really trying. We've been negotiating. We've been, but what exactly has the administration done? Because they haven't, on nothing have they actually moved the ball forward." So he said, "Oh well, I'm going to do all this with Putin. We're going to negotiate with on Russia, Ukraine," but he hasn't done anything. So what has Rubio been doing? Because even on this the narrow issue, oh, at least we can normalize our diplomatic exchanges. Even on that issue, there doesn't seem to have been made any progress.
Well, I mean, George, we'll see, but you remember the days and weeks before the initial Israeli attack on Iran, and then the Americans followed up. I mean, that was during a time of negotiations, right? There was
Right.
supposed to be a meeting in Oman, I think it was.
Mm.
Are we seeing a replay of this? Deception, buying time. I mean, you can make that argument. I think, at least at this point, we'll see. But maybe this has just been another ruse.
Could be. I suppose the one question that does occur to me is how much risk is Trump willing to take? I mean, in other words, we know Biden was willing to take some risks, such as launching these ATACMS missiles deep inside Russian territory. We saw that Trump didn't seem to be very enthusiastic. He specifically said that was not a good idea. And then, of course, we saw the attacks on the Russian air bases, particularly this part of the strategic bombers that came under attack. How much risk is Trump willing to take? And I don't know. I mean, because Trump, you think, maybe he's a cautious, pragmatic person, but maybe he believes his own publicity that he can pull off anything. I don't know. I mean, it just interests me if he wants to escalate, how much is he willing to escalate?
Well, it seems that he's a huge risk taker because, according to reports, Trump was very enthusiastic about the initial Israeli attack on Iran. It's like, this is going to work, right? We're going to win, right? This is a big win for me,
Right.
Meaning regime change, and it didn't happen. So, one would think he'd be more cautious now, but maybe just the opposite, because maybe in his mind it was a huge victory. Most people studying the region, studying Iran and the foreign policy quagmire that he's creating for himself, would say just the opposite. Okay.
No, that's right. But you see, if he wants to go down this path, as we were talking about this earlier, if he wants to go down this path of regime change in Iran, well, that's a long-term project. That's not going to, you can bomb and bomb.
Well,
That
it
isn't-
looks like he thought it was a done deal in one day.
That's right, but that isn't going to do it. So, in the same way, if he does this thing, which he obviously is going to make this announcement that he's going to be sending these Patriot batteries, if he's going to send offensive missiles and so on, that isn't going to do anything in themselves. I mean, okay, because that's already been done. Biden's already done in all of that, so there's nothing new about that. So therefore, is he going to do anything that Biden decided not to do? And that's what I mean. It's like, is he willing to take some risk that Biden and Blinken were not prepared to take?
Well, obviously, we can't definitively answer that question, but I think we can definitively say he wouldn't. He didn't take the risk of diplomacy.
Right. Yes. No, he didn't do that. um, and definitely didn't do that. But it's nonetheless, it's interesting because if he thinks that this is going to make a difference, otherwise he's continuing with this policy. And then that's 3.5 years. So that's going to be another, what, 2, 3 years, and well into the second
Well,
half
what
of
if it
his
doesn't work?
presidency.
What if it doesn't work?
Well, exactly, it won't work. I mean, it
It
can't.
won't work.
It won't work. It won't work.
Then what do you do?
Exactly. That's the point. What do you do? It's not going to work. I mean, it's, the the notion that, well, if you send one more missile, if you add one more sanction, Putin's going to come to the negotiating table. That has been tried, so it won't work. And therefore, will Trump then decide that he needs to escalate?
That's the
Um,
only. That's the only thing he can do if he goes down this trajectory. That's the only thing you can do.
yeah, right. It's still interesting.
He's just setting himself up for catastrophic failure.
Yes,
At least until now, he just kind of was wobbly. Okay,
right.
it showed lack of interest, lack of patience, lack of strategy. But if he goes up the escalation ladder, you can't go back down.
No, you can't. You absolutely can't. Um, uh, so it's odd why he did this. Now, in the case of Iran, we have this ready to hand explanation. Oh, it was Bibi, the influence of Bibi. I'm not entirely convinced by that, but at least it's an explanation. Okay. Oh yeah, he really likes Bibi. Bibi persuaded him and decided to go down this path, even though he didn't seem that keen on Bibi. But okay, at least it's an explanation. On this, I don't get it. He seems to despise Zelensky. His contempt for Zelensky was manifest. He seemed to rather like Putin. Always seemed to speak warmly about him. They always got on rather well whenever they met. And now suddenly he's going into these tirades against Putin. I don't quite understand what happened. What made it? There's no John Bolton around anymore. There's no Pompeo or Mike Pence or all of those people, all those hawks from his first term, they're not around. So I don't get what induced him
Well, I
to
mean,
this reversal.
always presidents, are demanding from their National Security Council, give me a policy, give me an effective winning policy, and they'll say, well, we'll give you one. We won't. They don't call it the Biden policy, but they'll say, all you have to do is kick down the door and the roof is going to collapse. Okay, and that's a very easy explanation for someone that doesn't like complex ideas. Okay. All you have to do is one more, and then you have this ridiculous Fruity Rudy showing up saying, it's intolerable to allow Russia a win in Ukraine. Okay, and that's the only message you get from every. You think Marco Rubio has had a change of heart about anything, George?
He hasn't had a change of heart. However, I don't get the sense that Marco Rubio has any particular influence
Yeah,
on
good,
Trump.
good point. Good point. Good point.
I always think that as far as Trump is concerned, he's little Marco. He'll always be little Marco. I don't think he's particularly impressed by him. And whenever we've watched Marco on the news shows, all he ever says, "This is what the president thinks. Oh, this is the president's policy. This is the President Trump has been absolutely clear. He never says, "Oh, this is what I think. This is my view." It's always, "This is the president's policy," and therefore the president, he's a peace president.
Yeah, he's campaigning.
Anyway, let's take a look at some of our friends on our local board, the people who really care about the dogs. They're very worried about these dogs, particularly with this thunder and lightning. Dogs don't really like thunder and lightning. NKMRD says, "Good evening. I read long-range missiles are supposed to be available to Ukraine. by the end of this month. Yeah, that's kind of we read that out. I don't know in what form though. Looks a bit empty here. Summer hole arrived. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's left very vague which long range missiles they're talking about, and under what conditions can they use them? In other words, are there to be any restraints at all on how Ukraine is to use these long range missiles? Um, I mean, Biden imposed some, albeit fairly feeble, but some restraints. I don't know, whether Trump is going to enforce any kind of restraints or just say, yeah, you want to hit Moscow, hit Moscow. I mean, Trump has talked, blustered about his plans to bomb Moscow. I mean, you kind of wonder what he really, why he says these kinds of things. But
Well, I mean,
he did talk, on a number of occasions. He's talked about how, oh, I told Putin that I'm ready to bomb Moscow.
well, one of the issues that George and I have discussed, argued, maybe even fought over on this podcast, to be fair, is Russia's reaction to escalation. Now, George and I have gone back and forth for count the hours. Okay, Russia reacts. I think in a much more thoughtful, sober way, but it does react to escalation. Okay, and so when we're talking about these missiles and whatnot, then that Russia will have to take countermeasures. Now, what does that mean? Um, um, Extending the number of targets that are considered valid, legitimate. That means, more urban areas, things like that. I mean, look, all of this just is going to be ugly, okay? And a lot of people are going to die, but it's not going to change the strategic calculus. And again, for the billionth time, just don't see how any of this helps Ukraine.
No, it certainly doesn't help Ukraine. Um, and and it doesn't even help whatever strategic goals Trump had in mind, because as we've discussed before, Biden at least had a goal. I mean, which was to
Yeah.
weaken and destroy Russia. That was the objective: keep the war going and keep weakening Russia. But Trump doesn't seem to be committed to that goal. That doesn't. He's not interested in destroying Russia. That's what makes this reversal on Trump's part so puzzling. I mean, it's like, well, why? What is the goal that you want? You wanted Russia on side. You were saying China is the problem. You said that somehow we need to mobilize against China, and you said it was a really bad idea to push Russia and China together. So why would you now do everything in your power to keep pushing Russia and China ever closer together?
Yeah, and if you're going to this again, going back to Lindsey Graham's and Dick Blumenthal's, was it bone? What was it? Bone cracking, bone
Yeah, bone. Is that? I think it was bone crushing. Yeah, bone
bone
crushing. Yeah,
crushing.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you're just going to piss off a good part of the world, okay?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what it will do is it will artificially intrude upon the oil market, and we're going to get some very, very crazy outcomes, like you cut off supply of significant supply of like Russian oil to the market. Then there'll be others, and we talked about this yesterday. Do they have excess capacity? Oh no, most of them don't have excess capacity. So what's that mean? The price of oil goes up
Right.
dramatically.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
you take a country that, an OPEC country that has 8%, and you take them offline, the market reacts. You take a country with 20% offline.
Right.
I think most people would have a hard time contemplating what the impact would be.
That's right. That's right. So we have Steve K9 asks an interesting question. He says, Iran should either one, enrich uranium and build a nuclear weapon, or two, do not enrich uranium, get fuel from Russia. The halfway approach, which I guess is for Iran to move closer to a bomb without actually building it, seems dumb. That's a very interesting point. I do think Iran had an opportunity over the past 20 years to enrich uranium and move towards a bomb. No, there was a great deal of hesitation about bombing Iran in the past, and so Iran should have used this the past 20 years to build a bomb, and then they could have said, "Hey, well, we have our deterrent. No one can mess with us." But now I think it's a little difficult for them because I think, as we were saying earlier, that a precedent has been set. Both Israel and the United States have tasted blood. They've bombed Iran, and so if Iran now moves toward enriching uranium, Iran will be attacked again. I think that's the case.
Absolutely.
I think the bus. I think Iran.
Well, it's going to be. But see, again, I'm not going to. I'm not putting all my focus on Iran's nuclear program. I think that's where they want to lead us all there. This is about regime change, okay? And the Iran's nuclear program, which I think they've made mistakes in the past. I mean, you do it or you don't do it, okay? I think it was a mistake for them not to develop it before, okay? But here, this is where we are because we're going to hear later this week. This is what I'm hearing, that Trump is going to demand the IAEA must be allowed back in Iran. Well, this is a trap, obviously. Okay. Oh, they're not going to do it. Well, then we're going to retaliate. See, they're building this up. They're
Right.
generating a scenario where the conflict it turns into a forever war. Okay. Now, I agree with George. I don't think it's going to happen. If that ultimatum is made this week, I don't think the bomb's going to be firing this weekend. No, but you just said, George, they've tasted blood, but so Israel has seen its own blood shed and its own country attacked. Okay. And Alistair Crook pointed out last week, which I think is a really important point, is that the scenario of the regime change that was attempted and failed, they're not going to be able to do exactly the same thing again. Both sides have learned a lot from those 12 days.
Right.
Okay?
But I think it's
And that makes this conflict more complicated and it lasts even longer. There's not going to be a total victory for either side. Okay, that's why.
Right.
And Trump is committing himself to getting on with this agenda, which is a cardinal mistake.
Right, but first of all, regime change is. I mean, that's a sort of easier said than done. This is a big country, 90 million.
That's why you get bomb and bomb and bomb and bomb.
That's not gonna get regime change. It has the opposite effect. It'll rally the public behind the regime. So I don't think that can happen. I don't think Trump is going to say this about. Trump doesn't give a rat's ass about the IAEA. He doesn't care about any of these international organizations. He's not going to issue.
I don't think he cares about any of these things.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. So, but I do think that it is a problem that the moment Israel gets on the phone to Trump to say, "Oh, we have evidence that Iran has reopened its nuclear enrichment program."
And we know where all the uranium is.
That's right. So we're going to do it. We're going to bomb Iran. That's the key point, is that Israel said, "Oh, they've started." That's why I think it's, in a way, I think Steve, and that may be the Russia's position. I mean, what Steve has articulated is Russia's position. Look, Russia's maybe saying, "Look, I don't think enrichment is really on right now. I just think you have to give that up. You had your opportunity. You had 20 years to develop a nuclear weapon. You didn't take it, and that maybe your best option is to forego enrichment on your territory. We will provide you with enriched uranium, but just forget about enrichment, because they're going to hit you and they're going to keep hitting you." And that may well be that what the Russians are saying. That maybe the basis of those stories that we were discussing a moment ago.
Like I said, I think it can be part of the conversation. Can be part of a much larger strategy. But just to focus only in on that, I'm not going to take the bait. Sorry, I'm not going to take the bait.
No, I just think that if
one thing that I don't think it's commented enough on is that last year going into this year, this strategic relationship that Iran and Russia were developing, and it came into force in some ways. I mean, even during the 12-day war with intelligence and other things like that, is that the Russians are saying, We don't think it's a good idea. We think you should stay in the non-proliferation treaty. And the Russians made that very clear. They don't like proliferation, okay? So it is very, very complicated. But Trump crossed the Rubicon, okay?
Yep.
He did an unprovoked attack on Iran. That may change the calculus completely. So this news story, this is the Russian position. I haven't heard this here, okay?
Well, all right, but I think it's plausible, for the reasons that we've discussed.
I agree.
Russia may well say that. Russia may well say, look, basically the option of enrichment, you just don't have it anymore, because now they've bombed you, and they're going to do it again the moment they sniff out. They're going to sniff it out. Israel has obviously your society is thoroughly infiltrated by Israel. The moment they sniff out any movement towards enrichment, they're going to bomb you, and therefore,
come on, George, you don't have to sniff anything out. All you have to do is lie.
All right, you don't
have to sniff anything out. They're doing it. But without any basis of truth.
No, that's true. The issue is, we're talking about enrichment or non-enrichment. Do you want to? If you go down this path of continuing to enrich, you will be bombed. Well, that's it.
They will be bombed irrespective. They will be bombed irrespective.
Well, okay. I mean, but if they do enrich, if you're going to make that a sticking point, your right to enrich, then
you will be bombed.
You will be bombed. You will be bombed, and that's
if they say we're not interested in enrichment, you will be bombed. Right, this is about regime change. It's not about their nuclear.
But as we've agreed, you're not going to regime change. You can't do it. It cannot be done. If you're going to do regime change,
I know, George, but that's not going to stop this is what do the Israelis want? They want the Americans to help them churn turmoil and chaos. They prefer that in lieu of however they define victory. We've seen this for the entire history of Israel.
Right. Okay.
Look. Right now,
the point is that this provides you, but the enrichment provides you with the United States with at least a purported casus belli. It's on what basis are you going to attack Iran? They say, well, why are we attacking Iran? Of course, you have no legal basis for it. But the reason we're doing it is they're developing nuclear weapons. They're enriching uranium. That's all. Then they provide them. You can't say we're attacking Iran because we don't like the Ayatollahs. I mean, that's not going to fly.
But that's why they do it.
Yeah, I know that's why. But how are you going to justify it? I mean, Trump justified.
You don't have to justify it. You just have to lie.
But you did. But they did. Of course, you have to lie. But they did justify it by attacking the specific nuclear facilities. That's all. Trump did that. That's the only basis that Trump could do it. He said, we attack the nuclear facilities. What basis are you going to attack them next? What's going to be the basis?
We know where the uranium is. We have to attack them. Oh, it's in the center of Tehran, under the Ayatollah's palace. Okay, whatever, George. Whatever. The war has started. And it's not over yet. And you can throw in, it's because of the IAEA, it's there or it's not there. It's because they've smuggled the uranium this place or that. It doesn't matter. The foreign policy objective of people around Donald Trump is to regime change in Iran. It's been on the agenda for decades, okay? And they finally got a president that will go along with it. That's all.
That's not what he said. He's not going along with it. He did it in order to.
What was the bombing about, George? The Israelis were to take out the regime, and we'll take out the nuclear assets. That was it. That's what he was sold. It didn't work.
It didn't work, and it cannot work. It cannot work. By definition, it cannot work.
I'm getting frustrated now.
Well, you're frustrated because we're arguing at cross purposes.
I know, George. They want to destroy. They want to destroy and break up Iran. And if it's going to be through the nuclear program, that's their reason.
Okay.
They're exporting the revolution. That's the reason. They're supporting Hezbollah. That's the reason. They're backing the Houthis. That's the reason. You don't need a reason, George. There's so many of them you can pick from.
We'll have to see.
What about those missiles?
I don't think.
Okay,
I don't think it can remotely.
you're not enriching,
be
but you have long-range missiles. What about the missiles now? It's always that way.
The United States has very specifically issued only on that issue, which was the Iran and nuclear weapons. Israel is a different case. Now you could say that Trump is going to go down and join Israel in bombing Iran in order to achieve regime change. I don't know. Maybe it'll happen. I have my doubts that it's going to be done because
Okay, George, is this all over?
it's an obvious point. I mean, which is when has that ever happened that any country was bombed into regime change?
What was it resolved, George, with the 12-day war? What was resolved?
What was resolved as far as Israel is concerned, obviously nothing much was resolved. As far as the United States was concerned, they said, well, we ended their nuclear program. If, however, the United States decides we didn't end the nuclear program, then of course it becomes very different. But in terms of what was resolved, the United States resolved what we wanted resolved.
And what's important here is that nothing has been resolved. What is most important is something has started. That was it. Okay. And Trump is not going to back away from it. Okay.
No. Has Trump?
No, because Iran. If Israel attacks Iran again, Iran is going to attack Israel. And we're going to go right back into that loop right there. Okay. The Iranians gave the Trump administration a way out. Maybe it won't happen the next time. We'll see. All right. We got 3.5 minutes. Let's be nice.
All right. Right. All right. Okay. So I don't know whether anybody has heard any of the statements, whether during the past hour or so.
So it's almost 11 o'clock now. 11:30.
Yes, that's right. NKMRD says forever wars are always on the table, but the NATO strategies, investments, and preparations for balkanization, regime change in Russia, China, Iran are huge. We have big budgets in both USA and Germany now. All of that while still pushing Agenda 2030 ideas and Israel going wide.
They got big plans. I agree with that. They've got really big plans.
But a country of 9 million cannot affect regime change in a country of 90 million. I mean,
they got the strongest country in the world to bomb.
Right. You can, but
Iran is zero. Threatens the United States in no way, shape, or form.
In no way, shape, or form.
To start an unprovoked war.
Right.
Thousands of miles away. That's amazing. That's really amazing.
That is, okay. The United States did that, but did it only on what the United States set as an agenda. A regime change has never happened. It's never happened just by bombing. I mean,
we're agreeing. That's why it's going to be a forever war, George.
All right, well, a forever war. I mean, if Trump does, I mean, maybe Trump will go down this path. If Trump does go down this path, then I think he's going to be in a lot of trouble. And moreover, not only will he have his own party against him, the Democrats will be against him because they don't support this policy. And therefore, he will cede the anti-war position to the Democrats, as happened during the George W. Bush era. And so say goodbye to J.D. Vance coming to the presidency, because I think you are going to have more of these figures like the guy in New York, the more of those type of people. Yeah, exactly. Who are gonna emerge and say, "Hey, we are these left-wing anti-war populists," and then that issue that Trump and the Trumpians had seized upon. Hey, this is the populist, the right-wing populist anti-war position. It'll be gone. That moment will have passed.
I think and more broadly, and I'm looking at the time right now, is that when you look at the number of people that were very sympathetic to Bernie Sanders, and he was denied the nomination twice. And Trump was able to tap into the Bernie bros. So because Bernie Sanders was not a pro-war. I mean, he is on everything. He wobbled, okay, but I'm not so worried about the Democrats because they seem to be in some kind of chronic death cycle.
No,
Good for them.
I think they're
Let
recovering.
me finish. Okay, I'm more worried about what's going to happen to MAGA. Okay, that's what I'm.
Well,
I'm
but
not going to agree with you, but I think first
yeah.
what's going to happen to MAGA.
Right. No, but I think if there's going to if he does indeed go down this path of this war with Iran, war with Russia, absolutely there will be some kind of a left-wing populist movement, and that's it. That the MAGA will gradually evaporate because they will have lost the sort of that kind of right-wing populist anti-war position, which Trump had tapped into.
Let me ask you real quick. Okay. So Trump has been he's joined forces with the deep state. Instead of draining the swamp, he's the lord of the swamp. Would
Right.
you agree or disagree with that?
No, I agree. I agree with that. I agree. I agree, and I think that's why I think the coalition, the Trumpians coalition, will disintegrate, and why
Good.
the anti-war position will just shift over to the left. Happened during Vietnam. It happened in the Vietnam era.
I give you a figurative handshake, George.
All right.
We ended on a good note.
All right. So thank you very much, everybody who joined us, and we will be back next Monday. And then, of course, you can join me in my solo live stream tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, all the best. Goodbye. See you.